this book called The Education of Arnold Hitler. And Arnold Hitler is a really, really sweet guy, a nice guy, wonderful guy. He's, you know, captain of the chess team and quarterback of the football team and handsome and smart and, you know, really great guy with a terribly, terribly crappy name. So what happens to this wonderful guy because of his name? One of the things that happens is he gets involved with, a lot of people want him because of his name to join right-wing organizations and be their Hitler. He's not like that at all. And there's one guy that he meets at Harvard. It's actually the most vicious villain I've ever created, very subtly, studying at Harvard Medical School to be a psychiatrist. God help us. And he tries to get Arnold to become Jewish because he says, look, you're a pariah. Nobody wants to go out with you because of your name. Nobody wants you in their class. Nobody wants you on their team. Nobody wants you in their political movements. You're a pariah. Judaism is the religion of pariahs. You should become a Jew. And he makes a very persuasive argument to Arnold to convert to Judaism. And Arnold takes him pretty seriously and looks into the question of Judaism. And that's a large part of the middle section of the book. What is Judaism? And I took that as my study about what essentially is going on with this heritage. So this is a good book. It also was, I think, pretty much appreciated by the Jewish press and the Jewish community. It got good reviews. So,
but you don't support Israel in
no.
their wars with the Palestinians?
No, of course not. Who would?
I think that's important for our viewers to realize, though, that many Jewish people in America do not support Israel and believe it's wrong what is being done.
Well, that's true. That many people do, and there's a tremendous amount of intimidation about speaking out, being called anti-Semitic, being called a self-hating Jew. But, you know, if you look at the Gaza situation, I think has made things really clear. I mean, you imprison the people, close the gates, you starve them, you take away their energy, you take away their hospitals, their medical care, you shoot at their ambulances, and then you bomb them. You know, there's very little that you can say to support that. You can say, well, okay, they shot some homemade rockets, and my people are afraid, and that's true. The people in Sderot are afraid. They have to have air raid drills. Nevertheless, you know, 1.5 million people are being destroyed so that a small number of people in Sderot don't have to be afraid. 3 people were killed during the Gaza thing. 3 civilians were killed. 1,300 Palestinians were killed. 13 people altogether were killed. 10 of the 13 were military, and 4 of those were friendly fire. And that is supposed to balance this huge destruction of society. And it's presented that way. It's presented as a tit for tat, as a cycle of violence, as if there are 2 equal things. Now we're having this charade about smuggling, stopping the smuggling of weapons into Gaza. Where does Israel get its weapons? We spend $3 billion a year sending Israel weapons. We don't think of it as smuggling. We just send them weapons. So it's the most thing. And Israel has the right to defend itself. But the Palestinians have no right to defend themselves. And if a Kalashnikov comes in through a tunnel, that's smuggling. But $3 billion worth of F-16s, that's not smuggling. So it's, you know, it's preposterous if you look at it, I think. And if you have a heart, if you care about parents and children, if you care about medical care, if you care about starvation of a population, if you care about public health, if you care about all the things that I care about, and in theory, that I was raised as a Jew, as a non-religious Jew, communist, to care about. You look at this thing, and it's hard to imagine that any people would do this to any other people. You know, and then the kind of rationale that goes with it is preposterous. This Golem Song is my Israel-Palestine book without being about either Israel or Palestine, because the study of Golem Song is the study of someone who thinks that he is chosen. He is chosen, the guy, to save Western civilization against these black people who are just into jive and rap, and, and against, to save Judaism from the blacks. He's the savior. And so it's a study of the pathology of chosenness, of thinking that you're chosen. There's very little, there is a little reference to Palestine and Israel, but basically it's about a guy who thinks he's chosen. Golem Song. Again, somewhat lateral approach.
Recently, about 3 weeks ago, I think, on the History Channel, there was a program about the original settlement of Israel. Noah led the people out of Egypt, and then they lived in the...
Noah didn't. But anyway, go ahead.
No, it wasn't. It was...
Abraham.
Abraham.
Yeah.
And they lived in the Sinai for 40 years, and then they had this... Israel was the promised land, and they invaded. They hadn't been there before, but they were going to take their promised land. And so there were people living there.
God promised them the land.
Yeah. And the city of Jericho, I think, was one of the first places they went. And so they marched around the city until the walls fell down, and then they killed everybody in the city. Yeah. And that was the way that they took the land. And now, I think of that when I see what's happening in Gaza. Are they just going to kill everybody there?
Well, I think the plan is not necessarily to kill everybody, but it's a genocide with more dimensions. That is, what they want is the land. They want the promised land. They want it from the river to the sea. They don't want the Palestinians to have their West Bank. They certainly don't want the Gazans to have Gaza. And they would like to get all these people out of there under one condition or another. If it involves killing everybody, that's what they're going to do. But the world will at least a little bit slap them on the wrist for that. So, you can starve people. You don't have to kill them with bombs and white phosphorus. You can starve them. You can choke off their energy. You can choke off their economy. You can dig up their olive trees. You can poison their crops. You can poison their animals. You can let the settlers go loose with weapons and shoot people up and not do anything about it, et cetera, et cetera. So it's not exactly like herding people around, sending them on trains and putting them into death camps. But it's a kind of vast, slow death camp with the project of ridding the Holy Land from, and having it there for the Jews, as promised in the Bible. So I think that's the project. Are they going to kill everybody? Not if they can get them to move away, or not if they can get them to realize that they're a completely subservient population and will do what the Israelis tell them. And as soon as they rise up, they'll do Gaza again.
So in the 5,000 years since Jericho, our big progress is that the people will be allowed to move away from their homes. After all, in Jericho, they weren't allowed to move away. They were just going to die.
Well, in Gaza, they're not allowed to move away their homes. And I think, Richard Falk has identified this as a new level of international behavior. Before, when one country attacked another country, there was always the creation of refugees. And you had, you watch these streaming refugees out of the area of struggle, and you watch the refugee camps and the people in the refugee camps in the, in the tents, and the UN is trying to come in. This is the first time in history that before the bombing started, everybody was locked in. And that it really represents a new level of human and political behavior. No more refugees. Maybe now, now that we've shown them what we can do, they'll leave. Or if we keep the pressure on the West Bank, they'll leave. We create more and more settlements, take more and more water, have the settlers become more and more aggressive, then maybe they'll leave. Bulldoze enough houses, maybe they'll leave.
At least